The first rays of dawn pierced through the withered leaves of a solitary baobab tree, creating dancing patches of light on the reddish-brown earth of the Masai Mara. The dry air carried the scent of dust and parched grass, heralding another scorching day in what had been 3 months of relentless drought. In a relatively shaded area beneath the ancient tree, an elephant family was experiencing one of the rare peaceful moments of early morning. The baby elephant, just 3 weeks old, stood close to its mother's massive body, its small legs still trembling slightly with each movement. Its gray-black skin bore the soft wrinkles characteristic of young elephants, with patches of short hair remaining from birth scattered across its body. The tiny trunk was not yet fully coordinated, occasionally swaying awkwardly as instinct drove it to learn the complex movements that would become second nature. 3 weeks ago, the moment of its birth had been a miracle in the midst of the parched savanna. The mother elephant, a young female of only 12 years experiencing her first birth, had proven to be a devoted mother in those initial days. She had kept the calf close, her massive trunk gently caressing and guiding her offspring to find the warm, nutrient-rich milk. During those first nights, when the calls of hyenas echoed from the distance and the night wind carried the frightening sounds of the wild, the mother had stood like a protective fortress, creating a safe space for her tiny baby. However, from the second week onward, something began to change. The initial signs were subtle. The mother standing a bit farther away, nursing sessions becoming shorter, her gaze sometimes growing distant. The stress from the prolonged drought began affecting both her psychology and physiology. Milk production decreased significantly due to lack of water and food, while stress hormones like cortisol surged, interfering with the production of oxytocin, the crucial hormone for maternal bonding. Now, in the early morning light, the baby elephant felt a fierce hunger driving it forward. Instinct compelled it to approach its mother small but determined steps across the hardened ground. The familiar scent of its mother, a mixture of earth-dry grass and the distinctive musk of elephants, drew it closer. The calf tilted its head, trying to find the familiar position for nursing its small trunk, exploring carefully. But instead of the accustomed embrace, the mother suddenly flinched and turned away. Her massive trunk, those powerful muscles capable of lifting tree trunks, pushed the baby away with an unmistakable, decisive motion. The calf staggered its unsteady legs, nearly causing it to fall. Small trembling sounds emerged from its tiny trunk, the desperate calls of a child seeking its mother. This was not accidental or a misunderstanding. The mother turned her face away, clearly demonstrating rejection. Her large eyes, which had once glowed with maternal affection, now appeared cold and distant. Stress hormones and exhaustion had damaged her natural maternal instincts. Her brain, in a state of chronic stress, no longer recognized the calf as her own offspring. The baby elephant stood there trembling not just from weakness, but from complete confusion. In its small world, everything revolved around its mother, the source of food protection and guidance. Now, the only thing it knew and trusted was completely rejecting it. The herd began to move as the sun climbed higher. The matriarch, the oldest and most experienced female, had sensed subtle signs in the air indicating a possible water source 20 kilometers away. The survival of the entire herd depended on finding water within the next few days. The decision could not be delayed. The adult elephants began moving at a steady pace, decades of savanna experience evident in each deliberate step. The baby elephant, with its tiny legs and strength depleted from lack of mother's milk, struggled to keep up. Its steps became quick and frantic in an effort not to be left behind. The mother walked with the herd without looking back once. Stress and survival instinct had completely overwhelmed her maternal feelings. In her mind, there was now only one priority: finding water to survive. The baby had become a burden, something that slowed their movement and consumed precious energy she could no longer provide. The distance between the baby elephant and the herd increased from several meters to dozens of meters, then hundreds. The desperate calls of the baby elephant, those trembling sounds from its small trunk, went unanswered. The footsteps of the elephant herd gradually faded, blending with the sound of wind through dry grass and insects buzzing in the hot sun. Finally, the baby elephant stopped completely. Its small body was exhausted, unable to take another step. It stood alone in the vast savanna, watching the massive silhouettes gradually disappear behind a hill of dry grass. The last sounds of the elephant herd, the heavy footsteps on hard ground, vanished into the terrifying silence of the savanna. The feeling of loneliness pressed down on the baby elephant like an invisible weight. For the first time in its short life, it was completely alone. No mother to protect it, no herd to guide it, nothing but the frightening vastness of the savanna and the high sky above. The sun, now climbing toward midday, began to scorch its tender skin, unaccustomed to the harsh heat. The baby elephant let out a long, trembling call, a final cry for help sent in the direction where the herd had disappeared. The sound echoed in the hot air and then dissolved into silence with no one to answer. 2 days had passed since the baby elephant had been separated from the herd, and each passing hour was a challenging battle for survival. Its small body was now noticeably thinner, the gray skin beginning to wrinkle from dehydration. The large eyes that had once been round and innocent now had deep, dark circles beneath them, signs of exhaustion and despair. Primitive survival instinct had led the baby elephant to a small water source not far away, a clean pool that was the last remnant from the past rainy season, sheltered by the shade of a cluster of lush trees. It had crawled there during the night, guided by the vague direction of its sense of smell and the subtle sound of flowing water. This water source, though small, was sufficient to sustain life for a few days. The baby elephant lay on its side beside the water's edge, occasionally trying to drink a few sips with its clumsy trunk. The cool water soothed somewhat the burning thirst, but the fierce hunger still gnawed at its small belly. Without mother's milk, the tender body could not digest any other food. It could only lie there conserving what little strength remained and waiting for some miracle. When the early sunlight hit the water's surface, creating sparkling ripples, sounds from the distance began to emerge. First came the sound of hooves on dry earth, then the huffing breath of many animals. A herd of zebras was approaching the water source in their daily morning drinking routine. The baby elephant lifted its head, its cloudy eyes trying to focus on the images appearing before it. Its vision, not yet fully developed and affected by exhaustion, could only distinguish basic shapes and movements. What it saw was a group of relatively large creatures moving in a group somewhat similar to its vague memory of its elephant herd. The zebra herd consisted of about 15 animals led by the stallion with a long mane and powerful build. The mares and young followed behind, creating a natural protective formation. Their coats gleamed in the early sunlight, the distinct black and white stripes creating an impressive moving picture. As the zebra herd approached the water source, they suddenly stopped. The led stallion had detected the scent of elephant, a wild but non-threatening smell from a very small individual. Its large eyes observed the baby elephant with natural wariness, but showed no signs of hostility. The baby elephant, in such a weakened state, was clearly not a threat. In the cloudy mind of the baby elephant, the black and white stripes of the zebras, their herd movement pattern, and their relatively large size created an illusion. Survival instinct and desperate need to find protection made it believe this might be its own herd. In the eyes of a 3-week-old elephant calf that was exhausted and lonely, the difference between elephants and zebras was not as clear as it would be to an adult animal. The baby elephant struggled to stand up, its small legs trembling from the effort. Each movement required enormous strength from its exhausted body. It stepped slowly toward the zebra herd, its small trunk extended forward in a pleading gesture. Weak sounds emerged from its trunk, desperate calls of a child seeking its mother and protection. The zebra herd observed the baby elephant with cautious curiosity. They had no instinct to care for another species, but they also felt no threat from this small, weak creature. The led stallion let out a short snort, as if considering the situation. Some of the mares looked at the baby elephant with curious eyes, but none approached. The baby elephant continued moving toward the herd, each step an enormous effort. The distance between it and the zebra group decreased gradually from 20 meters to 15 meters, then 10 meters. Each step was driven by the vague hope that this was indeed the family it was seeking. The zebra herd began to feel uneasy about the baby elephant's approach. Although they did not consider it a threat, the presence of another species still made them anxious. The led stallion let out a warning whinny, signaling to the herd that it was time to leave. Slowly, the zebra herd began moving away from the water source. They did not run or show panic, but moved at their normal pace as part of their daily routine. For them, this was simply time to continue their journey in search of food. The baby elephant saw its herd moving away and desperately tried to keep up. Its weak steps became faster, more frantic in an effort not to be left behind. It made louder, more desperate sounds, unmistakable pleas to be accepted into the herd. However, the small body could not endure this intensity of effort. After moving about 300 meters, the small legs began shaking violently. Breathing became shallow and rapid heart beating erratically from exhaustion. Finally, the baby elephant could not take another step. It collapsed to the ground with a long, despairing sigh. The small body lay sideways on the dry earth chest, rising and falling with each difficult breath. Large eyes filled with tears watched the zebra herd gradually disappearing in the distance, the black and white stripes blending into the yellow of dry grass until they completely vanished. This time, the baby elephant had no strength left to make any sound. It just lay there, staring intently in the direction where the herd had disappeared, feeling an emptiness and despair deeper than ever before. The last hope of finding protection and love had vanished, leaving only absolute loneliness. The sun climbed higher, the burning sunlight beginning to scorch its tender skin. With no shade for shelter, no strength to move to a shaded spot, the baby elephant could only lie there and accept its fate. Breathing became shallow and slowed, a sign that the small body was reaching the final limit of endurance. In that quiet moment, with eyes closed tightly from exhaustion, the baby elephant perhaps dreamed of vague memories from its early days of life. The warmth of its mother, the sweetness of mother's milk, the feeling of safety when surrounded by the elephant herd. But those memories were now just distant fragments, almost impossible to grasp. The sound of the vehicle's engine echoed from afar, creating gentle vibrations that traveled through the hard ground to the unconscious baby elephant's body. Dr. James Mwangi, a veterinarian with 20 years of experience working with wildlife, was driving the Kenya Wildlife Service Rescue Team's Toyota Land Cruiser along the familiar trail to check water sources in the conservation area. This was the second consecutive week he had made this patrol. The prolonged drought had caused many natural water sources to dry up, forcing animals to concentrate at the last remaining water points. These places were not only sources of life, but also locations where conflicts between species could occur or where weak animals might be left behind. Sarah Kiprotic, a Kenyan wildlife researcher with 3 years of experience but particularly sharp eyes for detecting unusual signs, sat in the passenger seat with binoculars hanging around her neck. She was systematically observing the surrounding landscape, noting changes from the previous week. As the vehicle approached the small water source, Sarah suddenly raised her hand to signal Dr. Mwangi to stop. She had noticed an unusual shape lying about 50 meters from the water source, a small gray spot on the reddish-brown ground, unlike any rock or tree stump in the area. Both carefully got out of the vehicle, Dr. Mwangi carrying an emergency medical kit while Sarah held a camera and recording equipment. They approached with light steps, trying not to create noise that might frighten any living animal. When the distance shortened to 10 meters, the image became clear and left both standing silent. An extremely small baby elephant was lying on its side on the ground chest, rising and falling with weak breaths. The gray skin had turned slightly blue from severe dehydration, eyes tightly closed, and the body so thin that ribs were clearly visible. Dr. Mwangi immediately switched to emergency mode. He signaled Sarah to maintain a safe distance while he approached the baby elephant. With extensive experience, he knew that even a baby elephant could be dangerous if frightened, and its condition could change rapidly from unconsciousness to panic. He knelt beside the baby elephant, carefully observing its condition without touching. Shallow, rapid breathing, weak pulse detectable through the ear artery, body temperature lower than normal. All were signs of severe dehydration and acute malnutrition. He gently placed his hand on the baby elephant's chest to check its heartbeat. The contact made the baby elephant jerk slightly and open its eyes. Large, cloudy eyes looked up at him with confusion and fear. The baby elephant tried to lift its head but lacked the strength, only able to emit a weak sound from its small trunk. Dr. Mwangi began speaking to the baby elephant in a gentle, soothing voice, although he knew it could not understand human language. The sound of his voice could have a calming effect and create a sense of safety. He slowly opened the first aid kit, taking out a bottle of physiological saline and a specialized syringe. Providing water to a baby elephant was not as simple as pouring water into its mouth. A baby elephant's digestive system is very sensitive, and providing water too quickly could cause shock or injury. He carefully dropped physiological saline drop by drop into the baby elephant's mouth, allowing it to slowly absorb through the mucous membranes. Sarah, meanwhile, contacted the main rescue station via radio, reporting the situation and requesting preparation to receive a baby elephant in critical condition. She also took photos to document the initial condition important for monitoring the recovery process. After 30 minutes of on-site care, the baby elephant had become somewhat more alert. Its eyes were no longer completely cloudy, and it could lift its head for a few minutes without complete exhaustion. Dr. Mwangi decided this was the right time to move the baby elephant to the rescue center. Transporting a baby elephant required maximum care. Although it weighed only about 100 kilograms, improper movement could cause damage to the spine or internal organs. Dr. Mwangi and Sarah together lifted the baby elephant onto a soft blanket prepared in the vehicle, creating a makeshift stretcher. The journey to the David Sheldrick Wildlife Trust Elephant Orphanage Rescue Center took 2 hours on bumpy trails. Dr. Mwangi drove extremely carefully to avoid strong jolts, while Sarah sat beside the baby elephant, constantly checking its breathing and body temperature. Throughout the journey, she gently stroked the baby elephant's head and talked to it in a soothing voice. The David Sheldrick Rescue Center was one of the world's most famous places for caring for orphaned elephants. Established in 1977, it had saved and raised hundreds of baby elephants, many of which had been released back to the wild after reaching maturity. The vast grounds included separate nursery areas, food storage, fully equipped medical facilities, and most importantly, a team of experienced caregivers with deep love for elephants. When the vehicle arrived at the center, Angela Sheldrick, the executive director and daughter of the founder, was waiting with the care team. She had 30 years of experience working with orphaned elephants and could quickly assess the condition of each case. The baby elephant was immediately taken to a special care room with a gentle heating system to maintain stable body temperature. Dr. Mwangi performed a thorough general examination, including temperature measurement, pulse checking, heart and lung auscultation, and assessment of dehydration through simple blood tests. The results showed the baby elephant was severely dehydrated, about 15% of body weight, acute malnutrition from lack of mother's milk for many days, and signs of mild infection, possibly due to decreased immunity. However, vital organs were still functioning normally, and there were no signs of brain damage from prolonged dehydration. Treatment began immediately. The baby elephant received intravenous fluids to restore electrolyte balance using specialized solutions for wildlife. Nutrition was provided gradually with special formula milk for baby elephants, with composition similar to elephant mother's milk with appropriate ratios of protein, fat, and lactose. Edwin Lucici, an elephant keeper with 15 years of experience, was assigned to directly care for the baby elephant. He was a large man but with gentle hands and a warm heart, having successfully raised 20 orphaned elephants before. He understood that besides medical care, the baby elephant needed love and emotional bonding to fully recover. The first days were the most critical time. The baby elephant was still very weak and frequently slept waking only to drink milk before sleeping again. Edwin stayed nearby almost 24 hours a day, resting only when colleagues took over. He slept on a small bed right next to the baby elephant's pen, ready to respond immediately to any unusual signs. During the first nights, the baby elephant often had nightmares, waking with frightened calls. Memories of being rejected by its mother and the terror of abandonment haunted its dreams. Edwin learned to recognize these distress signals and would immediately get up to comfort the baby elephant, gently stroking its head and speaking in reassuring tones until it calmed down. The feeding schedule was carefully structured, every 3 hours during the day and every 4 hours at night. Each feeding session involved not just providing milk, but also emotional bonding time. Edwin would sit beside the baby elephant, allowing it to wrap its small trunk around his arm while drinking, mimicking the comfort it would have received from its mother. After the first week, subtle but encouraging changes began to appear. The baby elephant's eyes became brighter and more alert. Its skin began to regain healthy color as hydration improved. Most importantly, it began to show curiosity about its surroundings, lifting its head to observe the activities around the nursery. Dr. Mwangi visited daily to monitor progress. Weight gain was steady, about half a kilogram per day, which was excellent for a rescued baby elephant. Blood tests showed improving nutrition levels and no signs of infection. The baby elephant's trunk movements became more coordinated as neurological function improved with better nutrition. By the second week, the baby elephant was strong enough to stand for longer periods and even take a few tentative steps around its pen. Edwin introduced gentle exercise sessions, encouraging the baby to walk short distances and practice using its trunk for simple tasks like picking up small objects. The real breakthrough came when the baby elephant met Amara, a female elephant who had been rescued 3 years earlier as a young calf and had since become one of the sanctuary's most nurturing surrogate mothers. Amara was now 7 years old enough to display maternal instincts, but young enough to relate to a baby elephant's needs. The introduction was carefully orchestrated. Edwin brought the baby elephant to a neutral area where Amara was waiting with her keeper. The baby elephant, still weak but curious, approached cautiously. Amara's response was immediate and heartwarming. She extended her trunk toward the baby, gently touching and sniffing, then made soft rumbling sounds that elephants use for comfort and reassurance. Within minutes, the baby elephant was standing beneath Amara's protective bulk, its small trunk intertwined with hers. For the first time since its abandonment, the baby elephant felt the security of being with its own kind. Amara's presence triggered dormant social instincts, and the baby began making small vocalization sounds of contentment. Over the following days, Amara became the baby elephant's constant companion and surrogate mother. She guided it during feeding times, taught it proper elephant behaviors through gentle corrections, and provided the physical comfort of elephant contact. Under her guidance, the baby elephant began learning essential skills it would have learned from its birth mother: how to use its trunk effectively, how to interact with other elephants, and how to navigate social hierarchies. The nursery at David Sheldrick housed 12 other orphaned elephants of various ages. As the baby elephant grew stronger, it was gradually introduced to small groups of these elephants. Each introduction was carefully supervised, but the natural inclination of elephants to care for young members of their species made these integrations remarkably smooth. Casey, a playful 3-year-old elephant, became the baby's first friend among the other orphans. Despite the age difference, Casey showed remarkable gentleness with the smaller elephant, often standing protectively nearby during feeding times and initiating gentle play sessions that helped build the baby's physical strength and coordination. The baby elephant's personality began to emerge as it gained confidence. It showed particular intelligence and curiosity, often observed studying the actions of its keepers and other elephants with intense concentration. It learned to drink from a bottle faster than most rescued elephants, and its trunk coordination improved rapidly through constant practice and play. Dr. Mwangi was amazed by the recovery progress. After 1 month, the baby elephant had gained 12 kilograms and showed no lasting effects from its early trauma. Blood work was completely normal, and behavioral assessments indicated healthy psychological development. The baby elephant had formed strong bonds with both its human caregivers and elephant companions. Edwin noticed that the baby elephant had developed a particular attachment to morning routines. Each dawn, it would stand facing east, watching the sunrise with apparent fascination. This behavior puzzled the keepers until they realized it might be connected to memories from its early life with the herd, when elephants often oriented themselves toward the morning sun during their daily migrations. By the 6th week, the baby elephant was fully integrated into the nursery's daily routines. It participated in group mud baths where the young elephants would play and socialize while coating their skin with protective mud. These sessions were crucial for both physical health and social development, teaching the baby elephant important behaviors it would need in the wild. The transformation was remarkable. The tiny dying creature that had been found beside the waterhole had become a thriving young elephant with bright eyes, healthy weight, and a playful personality. More importantly, it had learned to trust again, forming deep bonds with both elephants and humans that would serve as the foundation for its continued development. Angela Sheldrick, watching the baby elephant play with its companions in the late afternoon sun, felt the familiar satisfaction that came with successful rescue and rehabilitation. This baby elephant would spend the next several years at the sanctuary growing strong and learning the skills necessary for eventual release back to the wild. Its journey from rejection to acceptance, from near death to vibrant life, exemplified the resilience of these magnificent creatures and the power of compassionate intervention. The baby elephant story would continue for years to come, through adolescence in the sanctuary, gradual reintegration programs in Tsavo National Park, and eventually, hopefully, a return to the wild as a fully capable adult elephant. But for now, in this moment, surrounded by the love of dedicated caregivers and the companionship of other rescued elephants, the baby elephant had found its new family and a second chance at life. As evening settled over the sanctuary, the baby elephant nestled close to Amara beneath the acacia trees, its small trunk intertwined with hers. The trauma of rejection had been replaced by the security of belonging. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and growth opportunities. But tonight, the baby elephant slept peacefully protected and loved, dreaming perhaps of a future where it would once again roam free across the African savanna. The circle of life had been broken by drought and stress, but human compassion and the natural resilience of elephants had created a new circle, one of rescue, rehabilitation, and hope. The baby elephant's journey from the edge of death to the promise of a full life stood as a testament to the possibilities that emerge when wildlife conservation efforts combine scientific knowledge with genuine care and dedication. In the months ahead, this story would be shared with visitors to the sanctuary, inspiring them to support elephant conservation efforts. The baby elephant, without knowing it, had become an ambassador for its species, its survival representing hope for all the orphaned elephants who would follow the same path from despair to renewal. The African night settled quietly over the sanctuary, filled with the gentle sounds of elephants resting, the whisper of wind through acacia trees, and the distant calls of other wildlife. In this peaceful setting, the baby elephant continued its remarkable journey of healing and growth, surrounded by love and pointing toward a future bright with possibility. Edwin reflected on the remarkable transformation he had witnessed. In his 15 years of caring for orphaned elephants, he had seen many recoveries, but this baby's journey held special significance. The complete rejection by its birth mother, followed by the confusion with the zebra herd, had created unique psychological challenges that required extraordinary patience and care. The rehabilitation process involved more than just physical recovery. Each day brought new learning opportunities that would have naturally occurred in the wild. The baby elephant learned to recognize different plants, understanding through observation which vegetation was safe to eat. Under Amara's guidance, it practiced the complex social signals that elephants use to communicate, the subtle trunk movements, ear positioning, and vocalizations that conveyed everything from contentment to alarm. Dr. Mwangi documented every aspect of the baby elephant's development for future research. This case study would contribute to better understanding of elephant psychology and improve rescue protocols for future orphans. The data showed remarkable resilience in the elephant's neurological development, with no lasting damage from the early trauma and abandonment. The feeding routine had evolved as the baby elephant grew stronger. Initially requiring bottle feeding every 3 hours, it now could go longer between meals and was beginning to supplement milk with specially prepared elephant formula mixed with essential nutrients. The transition to solid foods would begin gradually at 3 months of age, starting with soft fruits and tender acacia leaves. Sarah continued visiting weekly to document the baby elephant's progress through photography and behavioral observation. Her research focused on the long-term effects of early separation and the factors that contributed to successful rehabilitation. The baby elephant's case was becoming a model for rescue protocols, particularly regarding the importance of surrogate mother relationships in psychological recovery. The sanctuary's daily routine provided structure and security that helped the baby elephant develop confidence. Morning mud baths taught important skincare behaviors while providing social interaction. Afternoon walks through the sanctuary grounds built physical strength and spatial awareness. Evening gatherings around the watering area reinforced herd dynamics and communication skills. Visitors to the sanctuary were often moved to tears watching the baby elephant play with its adopted family. Angela Sheldrick used these emotional moments to educate people about the broader threats facing wild elephant populations. Habitat loss, human-wildlife conflict, and climate change effects like the drought that had originally caused this baby's abandonment. The financial support generated by the baby elephant story enabled the sanctuary to rescue additional orphans. Each successful rehabilitation demonstrated the possibility of positive outcomes and encouraged continued conservation efforts. The baby elephant unknowingly had become a symbol of hope and resilience for its entire species. As months passed, the baby elephant's personality continued to develop. It showed particular affection for water activities, spending long periods playing in the mud, wallows, and shallow pools. This behavior was encouraged as essential preparation for eventual wild release, where water skills would be crucial for survival during dry seasons. The baby elephant's growth rate exceeded expectations. By 3 months, it had reached normal weight for its age and showed excellent physical coordination. Its trunk control had developed to the point where it could perform delicate manipulations, picking up small objects, stripping leaves from branches, and even showing the beginnings of tool use by breaking off sticks to scratch hard-to-reach areas. Social development progressed equally well. The baby elephant had learned its position in the nursery hierarchy and showed appropriate deference to older elephants while being gentle with newer arrivals. When a 2-week-old female elephant arrived at the sanctuary, the baby elephant demonstrated remarkable empathy, standing quietly nearby during feeding times and showing protective behaviors toward the even smaller infant. The psychological healing was perhaps most remarkable. Early signs of trauma, startled responses to unexpected sounds, separation anxiety when keepers moved away and disturbed sleep patterns, had completely disappeared. The baby elephant now showed normal curiosity and confidence, approaching new situations with cautious interest rather than fear. Edwin began preparing for the next phase of development: gradual independence training. This would involve longer periods away from constant human supervision, encouraging natural foraging behaviors and strengthening relationships with other elephants that would eventually form the baby's surrogate herd for reintegration. The success of this rescue highlighted the importance of rapid response and specialized care for wildlife emergencies. Dr. Mwangi estimated that the baby elephant had been within 24 hours of death when found. The intervention had not just saved a life, but preserved the genetic potential for future generations and maintained hope for elephant conservation efforts. Night sounds in the sanctuary created a symphony of recovery. The gentle rumbles of elephants communicating in infrasound frequencies below human hearing, the rustle of straw as young elephants settled for sleep, and the soft footsteps of night keepers making their rounds. In this chorus of healing, the baby elephant's story continued, each breath a triumph over the circumstances that had nearly ended its life before it had truly begun.